within the wider community. For the already received, we need your support in providing the future generations the opportunity to make a difference within our community.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وأصلي وأسلم على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم علمنا العلم النافع وارزقنا العمل الصالح إنك على كل شيء قدير. So we'll begin by reviewing the past three quizzes. So the first quiz starts with Sheikh Amin appended 2 chapters to the end of the book, which are about what, and these 2 chapters that are not necessarily related to Tajweed are about the developmental stages of writing and vowelization of the Quranic text, and the other is about memorizing the Quran. Which of the following topics are covered under the headline The Glorious Quran? The answer is how the Quran was conveyed. I think, one second. Assalamu alaikum, brother. It's in the قاع الذي جنب المسجد جنب المصلى. لا. Yeah, the one that you're at. Open the door. أيوه. Well, Assalamu alaikum. Which of the following are topics covered under the headline The Science of Tajweed? The importance of reciting which Tajweed is the topic. Which of the following are topics covered under the headline Seeking Refuge and Basmala? The answer is the ruling on starting recitation with Isti'adha and Basmala. Which of the following are topics covered under the headline The Arabic Alphabet? The difference between written and pronounced alphabetical letters. Which of the following are topics covered under the headline Articulation Points of the Arabic letters? The empty space in the throat and the mouth is wrong. The specific articulation point of the lam, the topic. Why does the definition of the Quran include the phrase conveyed through succession? To rule out the qira'at that may have an authentic chain, but were not conveyed through succession. Which of the following is an example of tawatur? A citizen is allowed to ask the mayor a question at City Hall while a large number of people are listening. Each of the attendees relays this information to their friends. This is an example of tawatur. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Inshallah, we'll answer them. Inshallah ta'ala. How did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam convey the oral Quran to the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim? He recited to them, then listened to be sure they heard it correctly. Who was one of the Sahaba radiyallahu alayhim who wrote the Quran in the presence of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The answer is Zayd ibn Thabit. In which era was the Quran copied to the book form and sent to various major cities? The era of Uthman radiyallahu anhu. So basically we're going over the first quiz, the answers to the first quiz. It's important that after every lesson that we take the quiz, so that inshallah ta'ala, going through this is just routine. One of Sheikh Ayman Suwaid's direct shuyukh is Abdul Aziz Uyun al-Sud, who is the scholar who revolutionized the science of qira'at in the 9th century Hijriya and collected thousands of narration chains in his famous book An-Nashr fi Qira'at al-Ashr. Of course, that's Muhammad ibn al-Jazari, who was a scholar of qira'at and other sciences from the 6th century Hijri, who was born blind and is famous for his poem on the 7 modes of recitation known as Hirz al-Amani wa Wajh al-Tahani. Al-Qasim ibn Firruh al-Shatibi is the answer. Who is the Imam to whom the mode of recitation we are reciting is attributed? He died towards the end of the 2nd century Hijri and was his teacher's stepson, of course, Hafs ibn Sulaiman al-Bazzar. What is the name of the Qari to whom our mode recitation is attributed? He was a tabi'i and was a scholar of Kufa in the early 2nd century Hijriya. Asim ibn Abi Najud is the answer. What are the names of the Sahaba to whom our mode of recitation, the riwayah, is attributed and are in some of the chains of narration? Uthman ibn Affan, Ubay ibn Ka'b, and Zayd ibn Thabit. What is a good summary of Imam ibn Jazari's understanding of reaching excellence in Tajweed? Practice with the teacher until you reach perfection. It should become fluid without breaking your jaw to recite correctly. Reciting with the letter Allah from the word Ar-Rahman, making it light, is a mistake in ornamental characteristics of the letter. Because if you say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, for example, this is considered a mistake. However, it's not a major mistake, it's an ornamental mistake. As opposed to saying Ad-Dahman Ad-Dahim, for example, right? So Ad-Dahman Ad-Dahim, you change the ra to another letter, which is a dal. This is a major mistake, or what's the word? You said ornamental, and the other word is what? Ornamental mistake, small mistake, obscure mistake, and clear mistake, right? Give me a second. Assalamu alaikum Abu Zaki. تفضل.
أنا نسيت الباب اللي قاعد استخدمه السايد نسيته مفتوح.
طيب أنا أسكر إن شاء الله. الله يبارك فيك. طيب, where are we? When some people recite, they may say Maliki Yawmiddin instead of Maliki Yawmiddin. This is considered a clear mistake because there's an addition of the ya. The reciter pronounces the fatha on the ta as a dhamma and amtu alayhim. This is a mistake. It's agreed upon that it is haram. But for those of you who did not go through this quiz, please do go through it, inshallah ta'ala. So that if you do have any questions later on, you can let me know, and I'm open, inshallah ta'ala. Right. The next quiz, what is true about the basmala? You have the choice to say it or not if you start from the middle of the surah. What is isti'adha? When is isti'adha required? When you first begin your recitations, that is required. The basmala is obligatory when? Wajib, you have to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If the first verse you will begin with has a pronoun referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful. For example, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. It is impermissible to say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. You have to say بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. The main articulation points of the Arabic letters are the following: the empty space in the throat and mouth, the throat, the tongue, the lips, and the nasal cavity. In the previous question, what is the difference between the third and fourth options? So the third option is the empty space in the throat and mouth, the throat, the mouth, and the nasal cavity. The difference between them is the mouth articulation point includes the tongue and the lips. So the tongue and the lips, these two, are included in the mouth. So 4 and 5 are technically both correct. Okay. The difference between them is that one is looking at the articulation points in a different consideration, considering the mouth, right? Or considering that the mouth includes the tongue and the lips, because the tongue and the lips are both in the mouth. And Sheikh Ayman Suwaid, he refers to the main articulation points as these four: the empty space, the throat, the mouth, and the nasal cavity. Any questions before we move on, inshallah ta'ala? Any questions? Online or in person? Right. Give me 1 second, inshallah. All right. Inshallah, I'll speak louder. Let me know if you can hear me, inshallah. Wait. Let's see, share screen. All right. Sound. You can hear. Sound is something that you can hear, right? So the reason why we're talking about sound and the definition of sound is because that is what qira'ah is. Recitation, the qira'ah is sound. Without sound, you can't hear qira'ah, right? Without sound, you cannot hear any recitation. So it's important for us to understand, what does it mean? What does sound mean? The Sheikh says sound is an imbalance or vibration of the air layers in a way which the human ear can perceive. If the human ear cannot perceive it, then it's not considered sound. Ibrahim, do you mind like sitting over there so I don't have to break my neck to see you? Jazakallah khair. Human ear perceives sounds when they vibrate between 20 and 20,000 vibrations in 1 second, approximately. So there's a certain number of vibrations that have to happen in order for the human ear to hear it. Okay? Now, let's think about how sound occurs. Sound occurs in one of four ways. One of four ways. Sounds occur in nature in several ways. Okay? The one is mentioned that there's collision between two objects. If two objects collide, you hear a sound. Right? And you can try that with your teeth. Together, sound is created. Collision. Okay? Another one is divergence of two objects between which there is a cohesive force. So if something is stuck together and you break them apart, you'll hear a sound. So for example, bring your lips together and separate them, you hear a sound. Right? The cohesive substance in the instance of your lips is the saliva. The saliva is keeping them together. separate them. Likewise, when you group something, things that are stuck together, break them apart, sound occurs. Another way that sound can occur, and this is how sound occurs in our vocal system, in our voice. There's vibration, right? So if you take any object and you move it back and forth, it's going to hear sound. Recording in progress.
بحكي قاعد.
Can you guys hear?
Your sound is not very clear.
My sound is not very clear.
نعم.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
كان نقل.
Internet. Fine. Let's just change. Let's see if that works. Is that better? Can you hear?
Yes.
Fine. Another way is vibrating, right? If you vibrate, so a good example is your phone. When you have your phone on vibrate, when it vibrates, you can hear it because there's something moving back and forth. That's another way that sound occurs. So we said one is colliding, another is breaking two things that are stuck together, breaking them apart. Another way is vibrating. Another way is friction of a coarse object against another, right? You hear a sound, friction. Sound is occurring. So these are four. You guys hear? So 4 ways the Sheikh mentions that sound occurs in nature: collision, breaking apart, vibration, which happens in the vocal cords, and friction between two coarse objects. Okay? Now, yeah. And then the Sheikh talks about, okay, what is a letter? Before we talk about how sound occurs in the human speech, what is a letter? What is the definition of a letter? The reason why we're learning about the definition of a letter is because it is important for us to understand the difference between one letter and another. In order for us to know that we're pronouncing a particular letter, we have to understand, okay, what is a letter? What is a letter determines or tells us the importance of an articulation point. If you don't understand a letter, the meaning of a letter, then we're not really seeing the importance of the articulation point. And every single articulation point that is used in the Arabic letters is highly important. Okay? So a letter is a sound. which depends on a specific or approximate articulation point. A letter is a sound. So any sound that is made is a letter. And these sounds are dependent upon an articulation point, whether it's specific or approximate. I'll say that again. An articulation point can either be specific or what? Approximate. Specific means exact place, right? Where are you? I send you my exact location, right? The exact address. Approximate, where are you? I'm in the area of, right? Most letters are dependent upon a specific articulation point. When most people give you their location, their address, they're telling you exactly where they are. Sometimes, very seldom, nowadays especially, when somebody tells you where they are, they give you a general area. I'm in this area. I'm downtown, for example. I'm near Telegraph. I'm near Kadab. It's not very common. Likewise, with the Arabic letters, only a few letters are dependent upon approximate articulation points. So he gave two examples. An example of an approximate articulation point is the lengthening alif. So for example, waja, that sound. Ja, the articulation point is approximate because it's somewhere between the empty space in the throat and in the mouth, right? It's in that area. The dal, however, it has a specific articulation point. The tip of the tongue touching the gums just behind the upper incisors. For those of you who remember the teeth, right? Because we talked about the teeth last week, right? The tip of the tongue touching the gums just above or just behind the upper incisors, the upper lateral incisors. Lateral incisors? Correct? Ahsant. Jazakallah khairan. All right, so he talks about 4 ways sound occurs in nature. Did we skip anything, Abu? Did we skip anything, Sheikh?
No.
Abu Shu'aib, صحيح? Right. So I saw you skipping pages. I just want to make sure we didn't skip anything. So 4 ways that sound occur in nature. 4 ways. Which one of you is Shu'aib? What's one of the ways that sound occurs in nature? Vibration. Ahsant. Jazakallah khairan. One way is vibration. Another way, Ibrahim?
Breaking up 2 coheres or 2 objects.
2 objects that are stuck together, breaking them apart. Another way, what's your name? Harun. What's another way? I'm sorry? Collision between 2 objects. Another way, Mahir. Mahir, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Another way that sound occurs in nature.
So we said vibration, pinching, something breaking.
Friction between 2 coarse objects. Right?
Just part of things touching.
So, yeah, so 2 things that are stuck together when you break them apart. Sound happens. Vibration, friction, and, breaking apart. But when it comes to human speech, The Sheikh mentions two ways of sound occurring. The first has to do with a non-voweled letter. If a letter is non-voweled, meaning it's sakin, how does the sound occur? It is emitted by collision between two parts of speech of the organ speech, two parts of the speech organ. Okay, so he gives an example of a meme. Without the collision of the two parts of the speech organ, there's no sound. There's no meme sound. When the two parts of speech collide, the sound occurs. So the two parts of the speech organ, which are the two lips, once they collide, the meme occurs. Okay, that has to do with the non-voweled letter. Let's try that with a ra, for example. Collision, there's no sound. Without that collision between the two parts of speech, there is no sound. The vowel letter is emitted by separating between the two parts of speech, of the speech organ, accompanied by the articulation point of the origin of its halakah. So when it comes to a letter that is mutaharrik, that is vowel, separation along with, if it's a fatha, dhamma, or kasra. Because anytime there's a separation, there needs to be one of the three movements. Because remember, with haraka, with a movement, a voweled letter, there are three vowels in the Arabic language. So that vowel has to be dhamma, fatha, or kasra. And inshallah, we'll discuss in detail what the articulation point of each of these three vowels, what their articulation points are. But basically, for the fatha, it's the opening of the mouth. So, ma, separation of the two organs, along with the fatha, ma, ma, ma. With the kasra, it's separation of the two organs of speech, along with lifting the middle of your tongue and lowering your lower jaw. Me. With the dhamma, it's separating between the two organs of speech, along with circling your lips and raising the furthermost part of your tongue. Mu. Separation. Right? So either collision or separation. And the third one that Sheikh mentions is for the lengthening letters and the med. They are emitted by vibrating the vocal cords in the larynx. This is accompanied by the opening of the mouth with the letter alif, while the tongue is in the position of rest. Give me 1 second, inshallah. All right. So I said two, I think at the beginning, the Sheikh mentions two ways that sound occurs in the human speech. Make that three. So the first one is when a letter is non-vowel. How does the sound occur when the letter is non-vowel, Ibrahim? Collision, right? When the letter is voweled, how does the sound occur? Sheikh Hassan? Tabaud, separation of the two parts of speech, of the organ, speech organ. Now, when it comes to the lengthening letters, mudud and lean letters, then there's the vibration of the vocal cords. Now, one may ask, do the vocal cords not vibrate when the letter is sakin or mutaharrik? Of course, the answer will be what? What's the answer? Do the vocal cords vibrate when the letter is sakin or mutaharrik? Do they vibrate? Tell me more. What do you mean, depending on the letter? Right. So we'll talk about the characteristics of the letters, inshallah, when we get to that lesson. But some letters are voiced, meaning it's necessary for the vocal cords to vibrate. Other letters are not voiced, where it's not necessary for the vocal cords to vibrate. So, for example, the letter Sin. If you put your finger on your throat, there's no vibration when you pronounce Sin. Try that. There's no vibration, right? However, with the letter Zai, there's vibration. Get and try that, Harun. You feel the vibration of the vocal cords? So basically what the Sheikh is saying here is that when it comes to the med and lean letters, there's no collision and there's no separation because the articulation point is not specific, right? It's an open passage. So there's no collision of any articulation point. There's no separation of any articulation or parts of speech organ because it's an open space, right? The space is open. So it's only the vibration of the vocal cords. And again, 3. You have the alif mad, opening of the mouth with the letter alif, ja, vibration of the throat, and opening of the mouth, ja, opening, while the tongue is in the position of rest. Ja, ja. With the circling of the lips and raising of the what is it, the furthermost part of the tongue, the furthest part of the tongue with the wow, circling the lips. So we say su, su. So all you're doing is vibrating your vocal cords plus circling your lips plus raising the furthermost part of your tongue. Su, right? The result is wow, med. With the ya, it's vibrating the vocal cords in the larynx, accompanied by lowering the jaw and raising the middle of the tongue. G. So you vibrate the vocal cords, raise the middle of the tongue, and lower the lower jaw. G. G. And those are 3 ways that sound occurs in human speech. Now let us recap so that we're not lost. What we're talking about is how sound occurs. Okay? In nature, the Sheikh mentions 4 ways. Sister Yasmin, what is one of those ways that sound occurs in nature?
Divergent.
divergence. So, which will be the separation, right? Between two organs of speech, or separation between two objects that are stuck together. Another way, Mahir?
Vibration.
Vibration. Sense. Barakallah feek. Another way, Sister Manal?
Separation.
Separation was mentioned. Vibration was another one that was mentioned. The third one is?
It's احتكاك.
Ihtikak, right? Which means friction between two objects, two coarse objects, right? And the last one was what? Breaking, we mentioned that. Collision, right? So 3 of those, right? 4 are mentioned in nature, right? 3 of those are also what happen in human speech. The friction one between two coarse objects is not what happens in human speech. So if there was a sound that we made with the teeth grinding against each other in speech, then yeah, that would be one of the ways that we create sound in human speech. So if there was a letter like that, what is your name, for example, right? Then yeah, that would be one of the ways, ihtikak. So in human speech, ihtikak, or the friction between two coarse objects, is not a way of sound occurring. Okay, any questions? Like, in human speech, we have 3. One, Harun, is? I'm sorry? Collision between the two parts of the speech organ, right? And that's for what letter? That's for the sakin letter, with the vowel letter, or the med letter? Ibrahim? Yeah, which one? Sakin. Collision, right? So the non-vowel letter occurs by collision between the two organs of speech. What about the voweled letter, Bilal? Vibration could happen with all, but the voweled letter happens by diversion or separation, right, between the two organs of speech. The med letters occur by, sister, what's your name? Manal. The med letters occur by, do you know? You remember? Here, it's here. Vibration of the vocal cords and depending on, is it fatha, kasra, or dhamma, or is it alif med, or ya med, or waw med? Okay, so vibration in the larynx accompanied by, now these 3 I need you guys to remember. The 3 articulations of the med letters. This will occur again and again, right? So for the alif, what has to occur in the mouth? So the vibration of the vocal cords plus what? Separation and what? Ahsan. Opening the mouth and the tongue is at rest. That's for the alif. Ja, opening the mouth and the tongue is at rest. For the dhamma, or for the waw med, what happens? Circling the lips, the rear part of the tongue is raised. Circling the lips and the rear part of the tongue is raised. For the ya, anyone want to volunteer the answer for the ya? Ihsan, not Hassan. Ihsan. Ihsan, are you there? Ihsan is not responding. iPhone 5, whoever that is. Who is iPhone 5? Mr. iPhone 5 or Miss iPhone 5? Who might you be?
Sheikh, that's me.
أيوة Sheikh Rashid. أحسنت. حياك الله. Please write your name.
Yeah.
So I remember your iPhone 5. So what happens with the kasra or the ya sakina? Vibrating in the vocal cords, number one. Number two, what's your name? Idris. Hayyak Allah. With the ya sakina, what occurs? Vibrating of the vocal cords plus lowering the lower jaw and raising the middle part of your tongue. G. I'll recycle those three one more time. With the alif mad, vibrating the vocal cords, number one. Number two, opening the mouth. Number three, resting the tongue. Ja. Vibrating the vocal cords, opening the mouth, resting the tongue. Ja. For the dhamma, vibrating the vocal cords, plus circling the lips, plus raising the farthest part of your tongue. Su. For the ya, vibrating the vocal cords, plus lowering the lower jaw, plus what? Raising the middle part of your tongue. With the alif mad, the tongue is resting. With the waw mad, the lips are circled and the back of the tongue is raised. With the ya mad, the jaw is lowered and the middle of the tongue is raised. The important aspect will be repeating, inshallah. And expect this to be on the quiz, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Any questions on this before we move on? Now, this topic is highly important because it's making a mistake in these particular issues with have to do with how the fatha, how the voweled letter occurs, how the non-voweled letter occurs, and how the med letter occurs. It is directly connected to the harakat, the vowels, and how you pronounce them. It's also directly connected to pronouncing each letter properly. Right? Because some people, for example, they may say, Alhamdulillahi, Alhamdulillahi, Alahama. And this is wrong because they're not properly applying the sukoon. And to properly apply the sukoon, it's just a collision. Al-hamdu. So if you apply the collision and then you open, you separate, you're causing a vowel. So you're not pronouncing a non-vowel. So understanding this concept, the concept of how a voweled letter occurs, a non-voweled letter, how it occurs, and how the med letters occur is highly important. Any questions before we move on? No? Yes? Maybe next time, inshallah, you guys can bring pizza so that we can have a more exciting conversation. Inshallah ta'ala. Right. Either pizza or kabsa, one or the other. Right. Keep your thinking caps on. Pay close attention, because now we're going into detail, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah. All right, we said the main articulation points are how many?
5.
5. What are they?
Tongue,
The tongue is
nasal
1.
cavity,
Nasal cavity is 2.
lips,
Lips is 3.
jaw,
Ibrahim. Al-Jouf is 4. You cheated because it's on the screen. Al-Halq is 5. Very good. طيب. Can you repeat those, Brother Bilal? The main articulation points are what? But I want them in order. Sister Manal said them, but it wasn't in order. I want them in order.
In order, like
Position, right. Starting from the farthest away from the mouth. The empty space in the throat and the mouth, which is on the screen here, al-jawf, right? 2, the throat, al-halq. 3, the tongue, ahsant, al-lisan. 4, al-lips, shafatan. 5, the nasal cavity, al-khayshum, right? Ibrahim, what's number 1?
Joe.
Al-jawf. Number 2, Shu'aib, the throat, al-halq. Number 3, Harun, the tongue. Number 4, Sheikh Rashid,
شفتان.
الشفتان.
Lips.
أحسنت بارك الله فيك. Number 5, Muhammad Rashad. Oh, Muhammad Rashid, that's you. How are you in two places, bro? طيب. Number 5, Mahir,
nasal cavity.
the nasal cavity. طيب. Let's go over it one more time. Sister Manal, right? The first articulation point is what? أيوة. أحسنتي. بارك الله فيك. We'll get to that, inshallah. Right now, we're just counting them. All right, so the first one is? No, the throat is before that. Al-Jawf is all of this here. This is Al-Jawf. Al-Jawf is number 1. And this is the approximate articulation point, because it's so big, it's area, right? It's not specific. Al-Jawf is number 1. The empty space in the throat and in the mouth. Number 2, Sister Layan.
The throat.
The throat. أحسنت. الحلق. طيب. Number 3, من أنت؟ مختبئ. ها؟ شاكر. What's number 3, Shakir? The tongue. And number 4, Sheikh Hassan. The lips. And number 5, Brother Bilal? The nasal passage, al-khayshum. Now, the al-jawf is one main articulation point. There are 3 letters. Al-halq has 3 parts. Al-lisan has several parts. The lips is 2 parts. And then the khayshum. Most of the letters are on the tongue. Most of the letters are on the tongue. All right? Moving on. All right, so this one is easy because we discussed the letters of med already, right? So from the empty space in the mouth and the throat come 3 letters of lengthening. Okay? The alif that is preceded by a fatha. The articulation space, I don't usually like to say articulation point for these because it's not a point, it's an area. Articulation area. It's al-jawf. The vibration of the vocal cords in the larynx, you see the indicator for the vibration looks like Wi-Fi. You turn on the Wi-Fi in your throat, in your vocal cords, and subhanallah, magically the sound comes out. For those of us who have vocal cords that work, that's a blessing, alhamdulillah, right? So many things that we don't know we have to thank Allah Azza wa Jalla for, right? The fact that your vocal cords work, ya salam, Allahumma lakal hamd. So turn on the Wi-Fi in your vocal cords, and the sound flows through your mouth. Alif mad. Now, if the tongue is lowered and the mouth is opened, the result is alif mad. Ja. Subhanallah. Right? It's like a flute. You blow, and then you hit one point, you get a certain sound. You hit another point, you get a certain sound. So the alif mad occurs by vibrating the vocal cords, lowering the tongue, and opening the mouth. You vibrate the vocal cords. You lift the farthest back part of the tongue and circle your lips. Subhanallah. You get a wow dhamma. Wow mad, sorry. Same vibration, same vibration. The difference, I opened and lowered, I circled and raised. Same vibration, the difference, I raised and lowered. Raised the middle of the tongue and lowered the bottom jaw. So the articulation area for the med letters is al-jawf. Okay? It is an approximate articulation point. It is not specific. It's not specific because it's an area. It's a wide range of landscape or geography that is needed for these letters to be pronounced, right? From mountains and valleys and snowy and over the seas, right? All the way across the vocals, you need to pronounce these med letters. They're long, so their articulation area is also long. Any questions? Sister Manal, clear? So that's al-jawf. So al-jawf covers the area of the throat and the area of the mouth. There's no tightening in the throat, no tightening, or some tightening in the mouth, depending on whether it's waw mad or ya mad. The first main articulation point is al-jawf, the empty space in the throat and mouth. The first main articulation point or area. The reason we say area is because it's an approximate articulation point, not specific. Are there any other approximate articulation points? Question. Ibrahim. Kalla. Which means no, there are no more approximate articulation points. There's only one approximate articulation point, which is Ihsan. Are you there? The only approximate articulation point is Sister Manal. You also Manal? Oh, we have 2 minutes. Are there any other approximate articulation points, Sister Manal? No.
Is it me? Al-jawf.
Al-jawf bas. Right. Moving on. The lengthening letters were ascribed to the whole vocal passage, the empty space in the mouth and throat, because they are emitted with the least pressure of the voice. So the tongue is in the position of rest with the letter alif, and its middle raises at the letter ya. Its furthest point raises at the letter waw, along with circling the lips when pronouncing it. The non-lengthening waw and ya were ascribed to their articulation points because the pressure of the voice with them is more than that with the lengthening ones, and Allah knows best. So basically what the Shaykh is saying here is that when it comes to the waw and the ya that are voweled, like wahuwa, iyaka, iyaka, the difference between the wahuwa, the voweled waw, iyaka, the voweled ya, and the non-voweled of the two is that there's more pressure of the voice on their particular articulation points. With the waw, it's the lips, and with the ya, it's the middle of the tongue. There's more pressure. So therefore, we say the articulation point for the waw and ya mad is al-jouf. Why? Because there's a little pressure on the tongue. Very little pressure. All right? هل من سؤال? Any questions for clarification? No questions. Mesh. All right. Moving on to the second of the 5 main articulation points. Recap. What are the 5 main articulation points? The first one is Mahir. What is the first of the 5 main articulation points?
Verse 5, Al-Jouf.
Al-Jouf, ahsant. Sister Yasmin, what is the second of the 5 main articulation points?
The throat. No,
Al-Halq,
that's a throat.
the throat. Al-Halq, ahsanti. Very good. Sheikh Bilal, what is the third of the 5 main articulation points? The tongue, al-lisan. Ala, Sister Ala, what is the 4th of the 5 main articulation points?
Oh, what's the question again?
There are 5 main articulation points. The first is al-jawf, the second is al-halq, the throat, the third is the tongue, al-lisan, and the 4th is?
The lips.
The lips, al-shafatan. Ahsanti, barakallahu fiki. And the 5th of the main articulation points, let's see if Sheikh Rashid, what is the 5th?
خيشوم.
Al-khayshum, the nasal passage. Right, so we're on the same radio station, alhamdulillah. Very good. Mash. So the second of the 5 main articulation points is al-halq, the throat. The throat, as mentioned earlier, has 3 parts. The throat has 3 parts. The furthest, and when we say the furthest, we're talking about the furthest from the what? The furthest from the what? Furthest from the lips. One may ask, Tayyib Sheikh, why are we starting from the furthest from the lips? Why don't we start from the nose, from the front of the mouth? This is where people hear sound. So let's start from the front, right? Why are we starting from the back? What would your answer be? Are you raising your hand? I thought you were. Looked like it. What do you guys think? Ibrahim?
Vibration.
Say more.
Vibration starts in the throat.
The vibration starts in the throat. Say more. You're close. I think you know what you want to say, but you're not saying it.
Sounds come from the open space.
Right. Where do the sounds originate? Right? The sound originates in the back. So we start from the origin, from the asl. Right? You start from the origin, where it comes from. Yeah? Right. So the throat has 3 parts. All right? Each part has 2 letters. The throat has how many parts? 5 parts. 3 parts. Each part has 20 letters. You said what?
2 letters.
Right, ahsant. So each part has 2 letters. The throat has 3 parts. Each part has 2 letters. All right? Right. There's the furthest part of the throat, the articulation point, which is the articulation point of al-hamza and al-ha. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to practice. Go ahead and say it. And think about where it's coming from. Now say and think about where it's coming from when you're saying it. So that's actually 2 combined. And you'll feel that it's coming from the lower part. Now think about this. I want you to think about it. Right? Think about it. When you vibrate your vocal cords, think about where that vibration is happening. Even put your finger on your throat to feel where the vibration is most. For those of you who have an Adam's apple, it's below or above the Adam's apple? Below the Adam's apple, right? Believe it or not, that spot is exactly where the hamza and ha come from. Where the larynx is, where the vocal cords are. That's the place of the hamza and ha. Right? That's the farthest back we can constrict sound with the throat. Farther than that, we can't. There's flow. Okay? So the throat has 3 parts. Each part has 2 letters. The furthest part is hamza and ha. Aha! That's how you remember. You guys didn't get it. Let me say it again. Aha! That's how you remember. Aha! Aha! The furthest part of the throat. Aha! 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 Got it. Right. The second part of the throat is the middle. The middle part of the throat is articulation point of ayn and ha. And that is the area of the larynx, not the larynx. It's the area of the what? The epiglottis. In the Arabic for epiglottis is lisan al-mizmar. Right? The larynx, the epiglottis. Right? This part here, this thing here. This thing here. You guys see it? Yeah? This comes back. It retracts. But when you retract, say when somebody chokes you, stop choking me, right? That's what happens because the epiglottis moves back, right? So it closes the passage a little bit, so the passage of air is difficult. In the middle of the throat. Same, likewise with the ha. But the epiglottis does not go back so far with the ha as it does with the ayn. So try that. So you have aha, and then you have That one is not practical. But you have the closest part of the throat, which is the area of the tongue's root. Here's the tongue's root, or the area of the uvula, right? The thing that hangs in the back of the throat, the uvula, that area. You have two letters of ghain and kha. Ghain and kha. Ghain. Now try it. Agh. For those of you who snore, I don't snore. Trust me. Take my word for it. One may say, what's the difference between and ghain and kha? Same articulation point, but different characteristics. So the characteristic of a ghain is that of a voice. The vocal cords vibrate. The larynx is getting involved. So try saying the ghain and put your hand on your throat, your finger on your throat. You should feel the vibration. When it comes to kha, there's no vibration. So that's the throat. All right. Quick review. All of you enthusiastic students of Tajweed. SubhanAllah, the reward of reciting with Tajweed is great. Great. Every letter you recite, you get at least 10 hasanat. Right? Every letter you recite is worth at least 10 hasanat. On top of that, مع السفرة الكرام البررة. You are soaring with the angels. You're soaring with the angels. You're with the angels in your recitation. الماهر بالقرآن, as the Prophet ﷺ said, Sahih Muslim, مع السفرة الكرام البررة. The person who's an expert with the Quran is with the angels, the honored angels, the purified angels, right? And if you're not there yet, then you have two rewards: the reward of the 10 hasanat plus the reward of the difficulty that you endure. Mesh. Five. The 5 main articulation points are: number 1, Sister Layan.
What was the question?
The 5 main articulation points are: number 1,
الجوف.
الجوف. أحسنتي, بارك الله فيك. What letters are in al-jawf, Sheikh Bilal? Which is an alif preceded by a fatha, or wow mad, which is a wow preceded by a dhamma, non-vowel wow preceded by a dhamma. Aywa. Ya mad, which is a non-vowel ya preceded by a kasra. Ahsant, barakallahu feek. So what's the difference in pronunciation between the 3 med letters? They have one articulation point, but what's the difference? What do you think, Shu'aib? Dun, dun, dun. Gotcha. Harun, save your brother. Oh my goodness. La ilaha illallah. Abahum, even. Aywa. Right. So the placement of the tongue is going to make the difference in sound. And the placement of the jaw, lips. The placement of the tongue, the jaw, or the lips. Right? When you circle your lips, which med letter are you pronouncing, Ibrahim? Wow. The second of the 5 main articulation points is Mahir.
The second part?
Second of the 5 main articulation points.
Yeah. So the throat,
الحلق. أحسنت. بارك الله فيك.
الحلق, and
The
the
throat.
letters.
How many letters, Sister Yasmin, are in the throat?
3.
How many letters are in the throat?
3.
That's the answer to how many parts are in the throat. How many letters are in the throat?
6.
6. Ahsanti. So the parts times 2. How many letters per part? Sister Manal, how many letters per part? 2 letters per part. Ahsanti, barakallahu fiki. The furthest part of the throat, what letters are in the furthest part of the throat, Sheikh Rashid? Sheikh Rashid, are you there? Ibrahim, what letters are in the furthest part of the throat? Aha, mashallah, you're paying attention. Jazakallahu khairan. What letters are in the middle part of the throat? I forgot your name. Idris. The middle part of the throat, what letters? It's right there. You can cheat, it's fine. That's why I left it there. The middle part. Ain and Ahsant, barakallahu feek. Ain and Ha are in the middle part of the throat. The closest part of the throat, back to you, Shu'aib. What letters? And Ahsant, Kha and Ghain. Right. So the Sheikh is saying that the furthest part of the throat is the area of the vocal cords, which is what we said earlier, the larynx, the articulation point of Hamza and Ha. And then he says that the Ha is emitted by partial opening. So the vocal cords, you open them partially, right? And then the air kind of flows through that partial opening. So there's a difference between, for example, when you just breathe normally, and when you say ha, ha. The difference is when you breathe normally, you're not constricting the vocal cords to tighten the passage. But when you pronounce ha, you constrict the vocal cords to tighten the passage. Ba'suhum, 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 ba'suhum. Recording in progress. Yeah. So we have the ha by tightening the 2 parts of speech. As for the hamza, either it's closed and then you separate. That's for the vowel, or you proceed to close it to collide the 2 organs of speech for the non-vowel hamza. For the middle of the throat, of the epiglottis, the region of the epiglottis, is the articulation points of the ayn and ha. Ayn and ha, sorry. I said ha, it's wrong. The ayn and ha. So for the ha, you see there's constriction of the epiglottis, but not really that much. And the Wi-Fi is right there because it's where the what am I thinking about? So the sound is flowing and then it's constricted, right? Or it's restricted at that part. And then the ayn, the sound flows and then it's restricted at that. Yeah. Any questions? No questions? Alhamdulillah. I will have questions for you, inshallah. Again, the throat, the so the upper part of the throat, or the closest part of the throat, is the articulation point of the letters ain and ha, the region of the root of the tongue, with the soft palate. We talked about the regions of the upper palate, right? So the upper palate, you have the soft palate. I call it the pillow. This is my expression. I haven't copyrighted it, so soon, inshallah ta'ala. The pillow of the upper palate. Then you have the hard palate, which is here. Then you have the front palate, which is here. Mashi. Then you have the gums, of course, in the front. So the throat, there is the farthest part of the throat, which is 4 letters. Yeah. Hamza and Ha. Ahsant, barakallahu feek. Then there's the middle part of the throat, which is 4, System Ain and Ha. And then we have the upper part of the throat, the closest part of the throat, which is 4, Idris. It's right there. Mashi. Of the articulation points. We have 5 main articulation points. Al-Jouf, which is the open space. Al-Halq, which is the throat. The throat has 3 parts. The farthest part, the middle part, and the closest part. The farthest part is Hamza and Ha. The middle part is Ain and Ha. The upper part, the closest part is Ghain and Kha. Then we have the tongue. Then we have the lips. Then we have the light. So far, we've covered the al-jawf, the open space in the throat and mouth. We've also covered the throat. Main articulation points so far. Now we're moving into the most extensive articulation point, which is that of the tongue. Okay? The tongue has many parts. There's the furthest part of the tongue. There's the middle part of the tongue. There are the edges of the tongue. There is the tip of the tongue. And there is the head of the tongue. Okay? And all of these have their letters, inshallah ta'ala. Most of the letters, believe it or not, are on the tip of the tongue. Most of the letters are on the tip of the tongue. That's why people tend to get confused when they get to the tip of the tongue. All right? Okay. Any questions so far? We haven't gotten to the tongue yet. We're nearly there, but not there yet. All right. On to the tongue. We're taking it bit by bit. All right. The articulation point of the letter Qaf. This is a difficult letter, especially for those who are not art folks. The articulation point of the letter Qaf is with the farthest part of the tongue touching the pillow of the upper palate, or the soft palate. One thing you can do to find the articulation point of the Qaf is feel the upper palate of your mouth using your tongue. You feel in the front, here, there's the gums. Moving back, there's a little roughage, like there's the mountainous area, mountainous terrain. Going back, you have the, what do they call it? The mainland, or what do they call it? Grassland, where it's smooth, right? And hard, right? Good for those who like to drive, what do they call it? Drifting, right? When you do your drifting with your car, you like to do it on smooth road. Then you go all the way back, it's soft in the back, right? You want to go to sleep, right? Lay down on your pillow and fall asleep. So what you do is you rest your tongue in the front, and then you raise the tongue in the back where it's touching, but the farthest back you can touch your upper palate. Like you open your mouth and you close, whereas only the farthest part is touching. And that's where the cough is. I feel like I'm gonna choke. Oh. 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 Alcohol. 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 Oh. Oh. Alcohol. Alcohol. Any questions about the cough? All right. Before we move on, I'll recap by asking a question. The middle of the throat has 2 letters. What are they, Sister Ala?
عين and حاء.
أحسنتي بارك الله فيك. طيب. The al-Jouf has 3 letters. What are they, Brother Mahir? Mahir, are you there? The one that's hiding behind his hood, and Shu'aib. What's your name? Shakir. جعلك الله من الشاكرين. Huh? The 3 al-Jouf letters are. Dun, dun, dun. Go ahead, Idris, save them. What are the 3 al-Jouf letters? Huh? Kha. Kha. Sheikh Bilal. The 3 al-Jouf letters. Alif mad, Ya mad, and Waw mad. What is Alif mad, Shu'aib? Any Alif preceded by a Dhamma, right? Fatha. Any Alif preceded by a Fatha, right? What is a Ya mad, Mr. Harun? A non-vowel Ya preceded by a Dhamma, right? Kasra, not Dhamma. Yeah, preceded by a Kasra. طيب ماشي الحال. يلا إبراهيم. What is a Waw mad?
Wow. Preceded by
Waw sakina.
wow, preceded by a dhamma.
Preceded by a Dhamma. You sure? You're not sure?
Sure, inshallah. Final answer.
طيب ماشي الحال. Okay. طيب. Moving on. So the first letter in the tongue is Qaf. The furthest part of the tongue, touching the soft palate. The next letter in the tongue is Al-Kaf. The furthest part of the throat, on the soft and hard palate. So there's a combination. So try that. Ak, ek, ek, ek. Both soft and hard palate. And they usually say that the kaf is under. Where did it go? Yeah. They say that kaf is under the qaf. So you see how the qaf is above, you kind of lift your tongue, and the kaf is below. See that? They're close in proximity. And that's why many people make a mistake on qaf and the kaf. With qaf, you have to go back a little further. Qaf. With kaf, is forward just a little bit. All right? Any questions? So, before we move on, Sister Yasmin, what is the articulation point of the letter kha?
Ha is the furthest, the closest to the mouth and the furthest from the throat.
Right,
So
the closest part of the throat, you should say. The closest part of the throat. Ahsanti, barakallahu fiki. طيب, Sheikh Rashid, what is the specific articulation point of the letter hamza? Hamza. Are you there? Not there. طيب. Sister Layan, what is the specific articulation point of the letter hamza? Hamza.
The bottom of the throat.
The furthest part of the throat. Ahsanti. Barakallahu fiki. Mashi. طيب. Sister Manal, what is the specific articulation point of the letter qaf? The soft palate, but is with what? What part of the tongue? The furthest part of the tongue touching the soft palate. Ahsanti. Barakallahu fiki. Sheikh Bilal, what is the specific articulation point of the kaf? I'm throwing you a softball here. No. Sheikh. Aywa. The furthest part of the tongue touching the soft and the hard palate. So we will go over two more, inshallah ta'ala, before we end today's class. Right? I'm giving you a brain overload. Internet connection is unstable. That's not good. All right. I want you guys to remember the word Jaish. Jaish. Can you say Jaish? Jaish is the Arabic word for army. Jaish. In the word Jaish, you have three letters. What are they? And Jim, Sheen, and Ya. Jaish. Right? Remember this word, Jaish. Jaish is for the middle of the throat. All right. The middle of the throat, we have three letters, as mentioned, right? These three. And I'll combine them so that we're not confused. These three letters, either you're touching the middle of the tongue to the top of the upper palate, the hard palate. The middle of the tongue touching the hard palate. You have Jim. Ajj, touching. Ajj. Or you have Ya where it's close. You have to vibrate the vocal cords. Ay. When somebody hits you on the head, you say ay. 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 Try that. Pronounce it. Ay. 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 The middle of the tongue coming near to the upper palate. Right? Coming near the upper palate. Ay. With vibrating the vocal cords. And then you have sheen, which is closer to the upper palate, without vibrating the vocal cords. Ash. Many people, when they say sheen, they say ash. And this is wrong. The lips should have no involvement with the sheen. Right? The lips are innocent with the sheen. Right? Do not involve the lips. Otherwise, this is dhulm. Right? You're putting something where it's not supposed to go. Na'udhu billahi min al-dhulm. Ash. Ash. The tongue is coming close to the upper palate, but not touching. Coming close, but not touching, and you don't vibrate the vocal cords, only breath. Ash. 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 Recap. Jim, aj, touching the middle of the tongue, touching the hard palate. Aj, 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 aj. واجتنبوا اجتثت جاء. Second is sheen, coming near or close, only breath, no vibration. Ash, and do not circle your lips with sheen. Ash. Ya, a little farther away, vibrating the vocal cords. Ay, ya, ya, you, ye. One may say, yeah, Shaykh, you said ya in the Jouf, right? Why are you trying to confuse us? Is ya in the Jouf, in the empty space in the throat and mouth, or is it in the middle of the tongue? Make up your mind. Huh? What do you answer? Both. How? Kaifa. How both? So when you go to a specific letter, it's a specific point, right? So this ya, your answer is close. So this ya is referring to the voweled ya and the lean ya. So if a ya has a fatha, dhamma, or kasra, or it is layyina, meaning that it has a non-vowel preceded by a fatha, like laysa, laysa, shay'un. The articulation point is here, the middle of the tongue, close to the hard palate. However, if it is a maddiya, then the articulation point is in al-jawf, the empty space. Now, that's kind of breaking it down a little bit, but it's not really saying, okay, what is the difference? What is the difference? Anyone? Whoever's name is anyone, please answer. Guess no one is named anyone. Fine. Should I choose anyone? The unnamed. Shakir. You seem like a good guy to pick on. Huh. What's it gonna be? What is the difference between the voweled ya or the layyin ya and the maddi ya? What is the difference? Why do they have two different articulation points? Sister
Can I
Yasmin.
say that?
Yes, Sister Manal, please.
Well, I'm guessing the first ya is sakina. And we have to put the kasra for the letter before the ya. But this ya has the alif after, so it's mutaharrika.
Has a fatha after it, متحركة, or dhamma or kasra, right?
نعم.
So why are they two different articulation points? I don't think that's answering the question.
So this is a guess.
Right. I hid it from you guys. We flew through this, and I'm coming back to it. You know the answer? Allah, go ahead.
Tongue is in the position of rest with the letter Aleph,
Mm-hmm.
and its middle rises at the letter Ya. Furthest point rises at the letter Waw.
So the answer is down here. The pressure of the voice is more when they are voweled. Right? When they're voweled, there's more pressure that is applied at that particular articulation point. So with a ya, there's more pressure on the middle of the tongue than there is when you say B. With the waw, there's more pressure when you say wa than there is when you say su. That's why there's two. We categorize them as two different articulation points. Make sense? Any questions on that? Sister Manan, make sense? Five. One more recap before we take the last and final articulation point for this evening. And I will let you go. I will release you from captivity, inshallah ta'ala. Five. Ibrahim, what is the specific articulation point for the letter Alif Mad?
Jouf.
Al-Jouf. So your answer should be, Ya Sheikh. Alif Mad has no specific articulation point. It's an approximate one. Stop trying to confuse me. That's what you should say. But you are correct. Alif is Al-Jouf, and it's not a specific articulation point. It is an approximate one. Ahsant. Barakallahu feek. طيب. Let's see. Sister Yasmin, what is the specific articulation point of the letter Ha?
Ha is the middle part of the
middle part
throat. Of the Jouf.
Think about that a little bit more. The middle part of the
the throat.
The space. The throat.
Of
Ahsanti,
the throat. Oh, okay.
Ahsanti, barakallahu feek. Very good. Tamam. What is the specific articulation point of the letter Jim, my friend Shu'aib? Upper part of what? What does it say? The middle of the tongue, right? Touching the upper part of the upper palate, the hard palate. Right. There are 6 main articulation points. What are they? Harun. The first one is? Six main articulation points for the Bilal. What are they? 5. Oh, it's 5. Okay, excuse me, brother. Give me straight. It's 5. All right. What's number 1? The first one is Al-Jouf. Ahsan. Number 2, Ibrahim? Throat. Al-Halq. Number 3, Sister Manal? The tongue. Number 4, Shu'aib? The lips. Ahsan. Barakallah feek. Idris. Number 5. The nasal passage. Al-Khayshum. Ahsan. Barakallahu feek. How was that sound made? By what? Vibration or collision or collision? At least somebody's paying attention. Alhamdulillah. All right, the last one and I'm done. I'm done, inshallah ta'ala. So here he's showing the difference between the ya, the vowel ya, the sheen, and the jeen. He's showing the difference. And you can see the difference where there's more of a distance with the ya between the tongue, the middle of the tongue, and the upper palate than there is with the sheen, than there is with the jeen. You see that there's a difference between the three. Middle of the tongue, middle of the tongue, middle of the tongue. Middle of the tongue with vibrating the vocal cords. Middle of the tongue without vibrating the vocal cords. Closer distance between the middle of the tongue and the upper palate. Touching the middle of the tongue and the upper palate with vibrating the vocal cords. What happens if I don't vibrate the vocal cords on the gene? What letter do I come out with? Anyone? CH. Charlie. Charlie. All right, last one and I'm done. This we'll go over today, and we will also cover next week, inshallah ta'ala. Right? For safety purposes. The edges of the tongue, or the edge of the tongue. If you look at the image here, you can see blue dots and you can see yellow dots. The blue dots indicate where the edge of the tongue is touching on the upper palate. Either left side or right side or both. The yellow dots, so the blue dots indicate where there's pressure. The yellow dots indicate where there's no pressure. So the tongue would be resting at this part, and the pressure would be applied on these sides, the left side or the right side, or both. The left side or the right side, or the edge of the tongue with the nearby upper molars. Here are the molars. Yeah? And you can see the tongue, there's a curvature that's happening here on the tongue. And the sound is here in the middle of the tongue. You see there, the Wi-Fi is like on the bottom, because that's the direction of the sound. And he's also showing you here the nearest part of the tongue. The nearest part of the edge, sorry. These are the edges. All of these are the edges of the tongue. This is the nearest part of the edge. This is the farthest part of the edge. The area of pressure is on this side or both. So you can see how that is. This is the root of the tongue, by the way. Same. And we are done. So we covered articulation points. The approximate articulation point, which is for the 3 med letters. The specific articulation point in the throat, we said the throat has 3 parts. Each part has 2 letters. The furthest part of the throat, the middle part of the throat, the closest part of the throat. The furthest part of the throat is for Hamza and Ha. The middle part of the throat is for Ghain and Ha. And the closest part of the throat is for and Ha. Right? Huh? What happened? يا أبو محمد الباب اللي على الجنب سكرته؟ خلاص سكرته؟ طيب جزاك الله خير. So the middle part of the throat is for ghain and kha, right? صح إبراهيم? Yeah. Sister Manal? What? عين and ha. طيب جزاكم الله خير. You know, sometimes I forget. Happens. Funny. And the closest part of the throat is for? أحسنت يا شعيب. بارك الله فيك. Then we have the tongue. The furthest part of the tongue with the upper soft palate is for which letter, Sister Layan?
Lam.
No.
What?
Sheikh,
Dot.
Bod, la la la. The furthest part of the tongue.
Oh, Qaf.
Aywa. Then you have the furthest part of the tongue with the hard and the soft palate for which letter? Harun. Kaf. The middle of the tongue is which letters? Remember, I asked you guys to remember a word. Which letters are in the middle of the tongue?
Jim and Ya.
Ahsant. Jim and Sheen and Ya. Ahsant. Barakallah feek. And then the last letter, the edges of the tongue, or the edge of the tongue is for which letter? Drum roll. Bod. Tamam. Jazakumullah khair. I'm done. If you guys have any questions, I'm open. Barakallah feekum. So make sure you review, please. Make sure you do the quiz, please. It will help, inshallah ta'ala. And hopefully you'll have more questions for me. Inshallah. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام. يعطيك العافية. شكرا.
الله يبارك فيك.